Om Namah Shivaya. Many people and even many spiritual people do not like rituals, and I was also one of them, because I didn't understand them, until I discovered the lost original concept of the five elements, which I believe was not only the base of almost every spiritual teachings and esoteric teachings in the world, but it is also the base of almost every spiritual rituals in the world. So when I start to observe the rituals from the perspective of the five elements, I realize that they are actually very simple, very logical, and very beautiful spiritual activities. I start to like them and I start to practice them almost every day. And today I will tell you some lost explanations about the five elements rituals and about the rituals in general. What are the five elements rituals? Why they were performed, when, where, and I will show you how. So let me tell you first what are the five elements rituals and why they were performed. In my village, around 12,000 years ago, we use rituals to balance the five elements in our character, to balance our life. And actually we use five methods for that purpose, and the rituals were one of those five methods, the main methods that we use to balance the five elements. But we use rituals mostly to work on our fifth element, which we called the Great Spirit, because the spiritual rituals are the best methods for the spirit element. Makes sense, right? So in every tradition, in shamanic tradition, some religious tradition, or esoteric or spiritual traditions, people use rituals to connect with their gods. But the first gods were the gods of the five elements in almost every traditions, because they were the gods of the nature. So ancient mystics create the five elements rituals, which they implement the things that represent those five elements into the rituals so that they can connect with their gods of the elements. Whether you call them God, or you call them the elements in the nature, or you call them the source of energy, or spirits of nature, it's always the same. So the point was to connect ourselves, the five elements in ourselves, with the five elements in the nature. So you might think, okay, but the nature, it's not alive. God doesn't exist, or elements in nature are just dead nature. Well, actually, when we perceive them as a living being, this is when we give them life. Because even to people, if we don't perceive people as living beings, they will be just numbers, right? And we will not have a lot of communication. But once we start to communicate with someone, with people, or with the nature, they start to communicate with us. Try with the nature and you will see that it works too. So not only with your neighbors or some people that on the work or somewhere that you meet that you never speak. If you start to speak with them, they start to speak with you. And this is the same with the nature. If you start to pay attention to the nature, to the elements of the nature, if you give them life, they will start to play with you. They will show that they are alive. So the rituals are designed mostly for that purpose. So to give life to nature, to connect ourselves with the nature, because those five elements in nature are the source of energy. So once we connect ourselves with the source of energy, we actually acquire energy. And how we do that? How we connect with those five elements in nature? We do that through the five senses. Because five senses are the door of perceptions, and each sense is more connected to one of the element. So actually all the world around us and inside us is made of the 5 elements. And through the 5 senses, we can connect with those elements in the nature. So when we do the 5 elements rituals, because not every rituals are made with all the 5 elements, some rituals are focusing on one element only. For example, in many traditions, the ritual of the fire, it's very popular. Some people are jumping across the fire, some people are walking even across the fire, and some people are mantra and praying to the fire, offering something to the fire. So all those are rituals for the fire. They also include other elements too, but they focus on the fire. So in the same way, the rituals for water are very popular too. For example, in some tradition, they took water and they pour on the head to purify the body and the soul. Some tradition, they go to swim in the river, in the holy river. In some tradition, they drink from the spring on the certain day. So there are many rituals that are focusing on the water element. There are also rituals that are focusing on the air element. For example, the smoking a holy pipe or a chillum in India. Some herbs, because you see the air element is about the smell. It's about the air that we breathe in. And the earth element, there are many rituals about the earth element. For example, covering ourselves with the mud, like in shamanic tradition. The mud is obviously an earth element, so we are connected with it. So there are rituals that are specific for some element, but there are also rituals that include all the 5 elements, like for example this one. This is one of the most famous rituals, still today one of the most famous rituals in the world, because in India they use very similar rituals they call puja on every day. And also in a Christian tradition, the priest, before they start to preach on Sunday in the church, they use the same principle. They do the same rituals for their own purposes. A little bit different, but the base is the same. I will show you how it's simple when you observe those rituals from the perspective of the 5 elements. So you only need to have 5 things on the table, each one that representing one element. You have, of course, fire, a candle that represent the fire element, which is obvious. Then you have water. I already poured some water here. That is obviously representing the water element. And then we have the air element. For the air element, we use incense because it's representing the air element. You can also see it. And this is beautiful because actually you can see the air when you light some incense. But also, as I told you, the rituals are designed for the 5 senses. So when you light incense, you can connect with the air element through the smell, right? With the water through the taste, with the fire through the eyes, through the seeing. And then we have an item that represents the earth element, which is I put some ash inside, or you can put anything that is solid material or that represent the earth element. And the sense for the earth element is touch. So now you might be wondering why those senses belong to those elements. I'm not going into that now. I made another video for that. You can check it. Because in different traditions there are a little bit different explanations about the 5 elements and the 5 senses, but this is the most logical one because it has to do with how the elements, the logic behind that, it's how the elements entering in our body, or better to say, in which way the energy of the elements, because they are the source of energy, so in which way the energy of the element enter in our body. And for the 5th element, which is in the middle, I put here in the middle a pyramid, because to me a pyramid is representing the temple of the 5 elements with the 5 corners, right? Each one represents one element. But you can put anything that represents the 5th element, the spirit element, to you. For example, in most cases, people put statues of the gods or pictures of the saint, of gurus, or some gods as well. Even ancestors or someone from the family, a family member. So someone that you want to connect with your spirit or with their spirit. Some people also put here a yantra, which is a painting, a drawing that you put in the middle, or you can put like this on the wall. So when you focus on yantra, when you focus in the middle, then you can do some meditation. It's very actually powerful meditation, because try and you will see a lot of things happen when you focus for a long time in that particular place in the center of the yantra. Of course, during the time, because there were many earthquakes in the history, during the time some item fall down from the altar. So now in different tradition, maybe you don't find all the 5 elements on the altar. But in many cases you will find, but those people who putting them, they are probably not aware that they have the whole 5 elements on their altar, because those explanations were lost for a long time. There are some places where those explanations still exist. In India, those kind of pujas which are aware of the 5 elements, it's called upachara puja. So, but you might think, what has the pyramid or the pictures or the statue of the god has to do with the 5 senses? That's correct. So for the 5th element, we actually use the sense of hearing. So we use silence or sound, because we connect with the spiritual element, with the element spirit, which in India it's called space, and it's the same thing. We can connect with the space through the silence or the sound. Why the silence and the sound? Because the primordial state of the spirit element of the space, it's silence. So we can perceive silence with hearing. We cannot perceive silence with smelling or tasting, only through hearing. So this is why we can connect with this is why in meditation, when we experience silence, we can connect with the spiritual world, and many things can happen there then. But also we can use sound, because to listen the silence, it's very difficult. It takes practice. For some people it's more easier, for some people it's more difficult, and they need a lot of meditation practice to achieve that state of mind when you can actually hear the silence. But we have also sound, and mostly there are specific sound that can connect us much easier to the 5th element. For example, in almost all tradition, it's been used some instrument that creating only one sound. For example, a bell. And actually I do use a bell for the 5th element, because a bell that has a very beautiful sound, because a bell creates only one sound. So 1, it's close to 0. So the melody, it's not very let's say, it's not the instrument that creates only one sound is better than the melody that creates a lot of sounds. We can say like that. Or perhaps drums or didgeridoo or many like gongs or something, or the voice. Anything that produces one sound is good. We call them holistic instruments. But the voice, it's maybe the most powerful tool to create sound and to connect ourselves with the spiritual world. Actually, in every traditions, people use sound or silence to connect with the spiritual world, whether they were praying, chanting mantras, dancing, playing some instruments, or listening the silence or meditations. So, but one of the most famous, especially in yoga, it's the chanting mantra, and the best mantra for that is the mantra Om. Why? Because it's just one sound, just O. Some people says Om with M in the end, but it's actually one sound. So 1 is very close to 0. And they said that actually Om, it's a first manifestation in the universe. So it is the sound of silence in another way to say it. So in this way, we connect ourselves through the 5 senses with the spiritual world. And this put us, what this give us? It put us in the present moment. And this is the reason why we perform rituals before some very important event. Because rituals are actually preparation. So you can actually use the word preparation instead of rituals, because it's the same thing, like spiritual preparations, because it is the same thing. The rituals are preparations for something that is coming. For example, if you have some important, event, or for example, you play football or some other sport and you have some very important game, then probably you have your own ritual that you are doing, or you know someone who has. So they do that before an important game. Why? Because they need to prepare themselves, and with the rituals, they prepare themselves to be in the present moment. And why is that important? Because when you are in the present moment, then you can achieve maximum from that what is coming, or you can give maximum from yourself. So when you have an important game, you want to be there 100%. You want to achieve maximum from that game, and you want to give maximum to that game. But this is not only the game, this is everything. This can be, an important exam in the school, or for example, a very, very interesting example is actually when we invite our potential partner first time in our house, for example, for a dinner or something, or a drink. So what we do, we prepare ourselves, the house, the environment, we prepare that for this event, for this potential partner to come. Why? Because it is very important. Unconsciously, our unconscious knows that this might be one of the most important day in your life, because if from this event a positive income happen, so perhaps you fall in love, and this person fall in love in you, and then you make love, and then children, and then marriage, and then reproduction. This is one of the most important, for subconsciously, one of the most important thing in life, surviving and reproduction. So this is why we prepare ourselves, even without awareness, for that particular moment. And how we do that, that is very interesting. So we light a candle, right? So we put the candle on the table, and we said, we will make some romantic atmosphere. Romantic atmosphere. What is the romantic atmosphere, right? Nobody knows what is romantic, but we know how to make it. There is no definition. So actually, we do this romantic atmosphere with the 5 elements, because we light a candle, because of the fire, and then we put on the table the best wine that we have, or if you don't drink alcohol, maybe the best tea that you have or something. So why? Because the taste also needs to be the best. So we connect with the element of the water through the taste, right? And then we put some smelling incense, or we put some flowers or something that smells nice, or at least we open the window and get rid of the bad smell, because all the 5 senses needs to enjoy, it needs to be there in the present moment for that particular event. And then what we do, we accommodate our partner in the most comfortable chair, in the nice sofa, or somewhere that it feels very comfortable, because the sense of touch needs also to enjoy. And of course, we put some music, and we don't put any music, we don't put radio, so whatever it is. No, we choose the music that we like the most. Actually, we choose some kind of romantic music, whatever that means. Perhaps even what the partner likes. So basically, those kind of music in general I'm talking, those kind of music to make this kind of atmosphere are like background music that are not too much melodies, not too much taking attention from you, but just to have background music, very relaxed and beautiful music. So with those things we actually unconsciously perform the 5 elements rituals. Now the question is, where do we get this idea? Why do we do that? Maybe because for thousands of years we were performing these kind of rituals, and it's written in our genetic code, or we remember from past lives, whatever you want to believe. Or maybe because this is our nature knows how to connect with the nature through the 5 senses, to be in the present moment and to give and take maximum from that present moment. So this is the reason why we do rituals. For example, in spiritual traditions, some rituals are events for themselves. There is nothing that it's a preparation for what? Maybe for nothing, maybe just for preparation for the day. But that is actually the most important thing, because when you wake up, you want to give maximum for that day. You want to experience maximum. So with this kind of rituals, intentionally or not, you're creating some kind of preparation for the whole day. And this is why those kind of rituals are made early in the morning. Or for example, they are made a little bit bigger rituals are made once in a month, or even bigger once in a year, or for solstices and equinoxes, because for bigger rituals for longer period. So somehow we like to do that so that we can enter in this new period of time with a new energy, with a more awareness, with a more connection with ourself, with our spirit, with the nature, with people, or whatever we want to connect. So some rituals in spiritual tradition are rituals that are like enough for themselves, but some are preparation for example, initiations. Initiations are very important activities in the spiritual traditions, and I will talk about its initiation another time. But before the initiation, there are some rituals that people perform, and that is again for the same purpose: preparation for what is coming. Now, into these 5 elements rituals, people put so many things, because the original explanations with the 5 elements logic get lost, so people didn't know why they do that. This is a very interesting. On the retreats during the summer, me and Natalie are leading retreats, and people come from all over the world. And last year there was one guy from India. Actually, he works in Europe, but he is originally from India, and he came to our retreat, and I showed them the rituals like I always do. And he said, because this is the same like puja in India, and he said, after my explanation, he said, I was doing this kind of ritual all my life when I was young, but I never knew why I'm doing that, and I never asked myself why I'm doing that. He only know that he needs to pray to the gods in this way, but he didn't know why they're smelling incense, why there's water, why or they use coconut milk or something, why there are ashes. In India they put ash on the forehead, so it's for the touch, right? Or why there's a candle, or things like that, or why they chanting mantras. Of course they chanting mantras because to the gods, because the mantras are words that are dedicated to the gods, but actually it's the sound that is important. Through the sound is that we connect to the gods or spirits or whatever we want to call them. So because those explanations were lost in the most cases, so people put their other things, and actually if you put some things that are valuable to you on the altar, the rituals, it's even more powerful. Why? Because this brings you in a present moment even more. And also those items that representing the 5 elements, they need to be very valuable to you. More value you put on the altar on those rituals, more benefit you will have. Because, for example, it's not the same if you like this cup. No, you can put water in any cup, but if you have a special cup that you found, I don't know, maybe your mother made a cup just for you, or some special person gave it to you, or you bought it in some special place. If there is an extra value, then there is an extra value to the ritual. And also the water, you don't put any water. You can, of course, every water is a holy water, but if you pour a water from the source, from the spring, for example, or some water that you treat on the sun a little bit, or where you keeping this water, in what kind of material, all this is very important for you when you're making rituals, because more value you do for these things. Some items on the altar, like in spiritual traditions, religious or other esoteric traditions, they are holy. You cannot even touch them. Why? Because of that reason, because you want to make them holy. You want to make them as more special as they can be. So, for example, if you have a cup that belonged to your ancestor, or to the first teacher of your lineage, of your spiritual path, this cup has much more value than the one that you buy in the supermarket, right? So once, with those awareness, with those extra value for the things, when you perform rituals, in 1 second you connect with those stories. In 1 second you bring the awareness to the importance of that rituals, and then that rituals, of course, give you more benefit. So because you give more important to what you are doing, and whenever you give more important to what you are doing, these things what you are doing will be much better quality. That is very logical, right? So these are the explanations. I hope you like it, about what are the 5 elements rituals and why they were performed. Probably I will tell you much more about that, but right now it's enough. I want to now tell you about when and where those rituals were performed. So now I will tell you when and where those 5 elements rituals were performed. Well, ancient mystics divided time and space into parts, into 4 equal parts, and each part they dedicated to one of the 5 elements. So there are 4 equal parts in the time period, like for example in 1 year there are 4 seasons. And there are also 4 parts in the space, for example southeast, southwest, northeast and northwest. So each of these parts is dedicated to one of the 4 elements, and to the 5th element they dedicate the time between those parts. So between the seasons are solstices and equinoxes. So the first day of each season is one of the solstices or one of the equinoxes. So to the spirit element, to the 5th element spirit, belongs the time between the season, belong the solstices and equinoxes. and in the space it is also the same. So between those parts, which in between those parts are actually cardinal directions, south, east, north, and west, and those belong to the spirit element, plus, above, and below. So from this logic, it is very obvious when and where you're gonna perform the 5 elements rituals, because rituals are spiritual activities, so they should be performed in the spiritual time and the spiritual places. This is why the big spiritual rituals are performed on the solstices and equinoxes. So now I'm not going to explain you which season is dedicated to which element, because this I already did in another video. So watch the videos about the solstices and equinoxes and about astrology, and there you will find which season represent which element and much more about those things, and which part of the cardinal directions are dedicated to which element, and how they actually came to that conclusions, which logic they use to dedicate those places and times, those elements. Because in different tradition today you will find different explanations. Some people, in some tradition, the water will be on the west, in some it will be on the north. Doesn't matter. Each tradition can have their own, but I'm saying how the ancient mystics use one logic to put elements into time, space, and even human body with the same logic. So this is why during the solstices and equinoxes we can find some of the most biggest rituals through the ancient times, but also during the day we can see that people perform rituals mostly on the specific moments, and those are the sunrises, sunsets, noon, and midnight, because these are exactly the 4 cardinal points, like the solstices and equinoxes in 1 year. Those are point in time in 1 day cycle. And because 1 day is also divided into 4 equal parts, for the spring equinox they are very equal, and these are morning, afternoon, evening, and night. But more about this I'm talking in other videos. What is interesting is that the place, so how people choose the place to do the rituals. Of course, if they put the altar that is facing to the north or east or south or west, in the most cases they also include the sun, because the sun is the god of the time. And when you want to dedicate place and time to the rituals, then it's natural that you turn to the sun, because the sun is give us the time, right? We can measure the time only because there is sun in the nature, right? So in most cases people use to follow the sun, so they put altar to the east when the sun is rising, sometimes also to the west where sunset is setting, and it depends on which time of the day you are practicing the rituals, right? Because the sun is moving. And this is also the logic that you can follow, but also they follow the moon sometimes and some other things. But those cardinal directions you will always see that are very important in the churches. You can find in the temples, they are all, the altars is always placed on the south, east, north, or west. Why? Because those directions are dedicated to the element spirit, to the 5th element. And in many cases this temple or this rituals will be performed on the top of the hill or the mountain. Why? Because like in the pyramid, the 5th element, it's looking up. So on the top of the mountain there is this place that it's the shape of the hill or the mountain is representing that the energy go towards the sky, and that is the fifth element. Or even you will find underground some rituals, like also because the spirit element, it's above and below as well. So this is one logic according to the five elements, how they choose, how the people choose time and space to do the rituals. And also one very interesting thing is why they choose mostly in ancient times stone circles. Maybe before they start to construct temples for those purposes, to make rituals, they had their place. They dedicate the place and they put stone around so that they can actually mark those places as the place for rituals. Why the stones? Why the circle? Because the circle, it's the shape of the spiritual element, because the spirit element or the space is the self, and the shape of the space is a circle. So according to original five elements concept, there are five main, or five how you call them, symbols. So those five symbols are very simple, and I made a video about the symbols as well, but one of the symbols that represent the space is the circle. So this is why there are stone circles. And actually, whenever you create a circle, whether it's from stones or candles you put in the circle, or people, if you just sit in the circle, if you try to sit in the circle with people, immediately there is this energy of connections, and this energy of it is a spiritual energy actually, because the circle itself, it's the symbol, it's the that connect us with the spiritual world, with the spirit element. And this is why to sit in the circle, it's always good when we do whatever we do in the groups, or if we want to perform some spiritual activities, to be in the circle, so to create a circle around us, it's also very good and very beautiful. Now people may think, but why you must do the rituals, and why you need to go to specific places to connect with the gods, to connect with spirit? I can be spiritual people without doing rituals. I can be a spiritual people without going to the temples, because God is everywhere, right? Yes, that is true. You can do it is enough that you have the intention to connect with the spirits, with your spirit or with a God, whatever you want to call it. The intention is enough, but everything extra that we do, it has more value. So for example, I give you an example. If you have a partner and you, for example, if you are to me it's easier if I speak like this. So if you are a man and you have a wife or a girlfriend and you love her, right? So is it enough your intention? Maybe yes. Is it enough that you think about her? Maybe yes, but not for her. She will tell you, but you never tell me that you love me. You never show me this. So you need to manifest this love not only through thinking, not only through thoughts, but through words and through feelings and through actions, right? So when you tell to your wife or to your girlfriend, I love you, that has much more value than just to think about that, right? Because she doesn't know what you are thinking about. So, but when you say with emotion, so when you implement love into emotions, and then you say I love you, or you hug her or you kiss her, and then with emotions, then she will be even more happy, right? Because then she will feel that it's not that you're just saying because she likes to hear that. But then, is that enough? Maybe yes, but maybe it is even better if you do something about. So if you perform a physical action. So when you manifest love through the thoughts, words, feelings, and physical actions, that is, let's say, 100% of love that it's manifest through yourself. Because, for example, what kind of action you can, well, the hug is one action, the kiss is one action, of course, the to buy something as a present to your loving person is an action, or to go somewhere with your love, or for example a romantic dinner or something. So whatever, but it must have only this purpose, right? So then you dedicate time to love. You dedicate your thoughts, words, feelings, and actions for love, for your partner, in this example. In the same way, when we talk about elements, they are living beings, right? We made them alive. So if they are alive, they feel the same. So is it just enough to think about God, or it is better also to pray to the God, or to talk to the God? And it's even better if you involve emotions to that, and then if you perform something physically. And this is actually why the rituals belong to this, why they are so powerful and they belong to the spirit element. Because to perform a ritual doesn't have any other value than for the spirit element. You might say, I'm going to yoga and I feel that this is very spiritual activities, and I feel very spiritual because I'm going to yoga. Yes, you can feel that if you give an intention that yoga for you it's creating these spiritual connections, then it's great. But yoga is also working on other elements, on other level of your existence, not only on spiritual level, but also on mental level, on physical level, on emotional level, and or on energetic level. In other words, if you follow my videos, you understand that these are the 5 elements. So the yoga is working on all the elements if you work with yoga properly, right? So even if you dedicate time in yoga to spirit element, if you're chanting mantra, for example, that it's only 20% of the time that you dedicate to this element. But when you perform a rituals, then in this moment you dedicate 100% of time to the spirit element. And this has much more value than just to think about, talk about, feel about. But you perform activities that has no other value but just spiritual value. And this is very important for your spirit element, for your element spirit. So what kind of benefit it will give you, this kind of activities? All the spiritual benefit that you want, that you believe that it's working for you. Like, for example, one of the most important is intuition. So by practicing, by working on the spirit, on the element spirit, by practicing rituals or chanting mantras, actually you chant mantra while you perform rituals. So by doing that, you actually working on your intuition. And this is very important if you're walking on the spiritual path, or if you're walking on the path of balance. Because if you want to have a balance in life, you need to have all the 5 elements, including the element spirit. And then you will have intuition. So intuition, it's not that you have or you don't have. You will increase your intuition. Let's say like that. It's much correctly. When you dedicate time and place to the rituals, to the spiritual practice, it has much more value for you, because wherever you dedicate time, it is better. For example, everybody will tell you if you do meditation, you need You can do meditation anytime, it is always good, but the best is if you do every day in the same time, because when you dedicate the particular time to meditation, it gives you much more benefit, because your brain follows the time and knows, because of previous experience, okay, now it's time for meditation. But also when you dedicate something to something, it has much more value. And this is why rituals are always performed in particular time and on particular place. This is why we dedicate place to the rituals, because any place is good. But to go in a church, to go in a temple, to go in some energetic place in the nature, it's much better, because then you dedicate extra time and extra effort to go there. And this is why pilgrims are very good for the element spirit, to practice, to work on spirit element, on the fifth element. The pilgrimage is like chanting mantra during you go to visit some places. It's the best, because you dedicate a lot of time only for that purpose, which of course needs give much more benefit, because you dedicate more time. And this is why when we perform rituals, we prepare ourselves, we put some maybe valuable clothes, we bring all valuable items, special people, special occasions. Everything must be special, more value. And this is all about psychology of our mind. When we give some value, extra value, then it will give more benefit to us. So of course, it is, you can practice meditation everywhere, but if you practice in a temple, it's better. Why? Because the place that you dedicate for something has a certain energy already. So if you build a place, especially if you build on your own, or your ancestors built the place that is dedicated for some things, then this place has already this kind of energy. It will, just when you come there, it will support this kind of energy that it is designed and it is used for. And the same is with rituals. So if you have a place that you dedicated, that you dedicate for rituals, it's much better, because soon as you come there, either it's in the house, or it's in the temple, or it's outside in the nature, when you come there, if you dedicate this place for ritual, when you come there, immediately your body will recognize, your soul will recognize that you are now, your attention is now to perform a ritual, and that means to connect with the spiritual world, to connect with the spirit, to connect with the five elements in the nature, to connect with gods, to connect with yourself, with your soul. And now I want to show you how you can perform the five elements rituals. This one, because there are many five elements rituals. For example, in shamanic world, there are this Temazcal or sweat lodge, that it's a ritual that also include all the five elements. It's come from Mexico. So they use rocks, they heat them in the fire, and then they took these rocks into the sauna, inside a small sauna, when everybody go inside, and then they pour water on those rocks to create steam and air, right? Sometimes they put in the water some magical herbs or something to smell better. And of course they chant, or they sing, or they drum. So they use all the elements for those rituals. There are other rituals that include all the elements, but this one, it's the most famous, similar, it's the most famous, and is the most simple, is the one that you can really do in your home, in your house, and you can do every day. So you can create your own rituals with those items. You can be creative with rituals. More creative you are with rituals, it more you will actually put yourself into it, and it will give you even better and nicer result. It will be more personal. So what I did, I create my own talking, my own prayer for when I start. So when I start with bell, and of course I do my prayer. You can invent your own prayer. You can use some of the prayers that are already in the spiritual tradition used for those kind of purposes. If you want to use mantra, so while I'm doing this, I'm chanting also this mantra. I'm chanting or Om, or I chant Om Namah Shivaya, because Om Namah Shivaya is the mantra of the 5 elements. Not many people know this, but it's not about the Shiva, but it's the mantra about the 5 elements. So you light, of course, a candle, you pour some water, you burn some smelling incense, and you put some ash in one cup, and here you can put whatever you want that connects you with the spirit element, or you can put a bell or a yantra or something. And then once you do this, you activate the altar. This is an altar, and you wake up those elements, the spirits of those elements, with your voice or with a bell. So this is how you start. And then I go in this order. I go first fire, and then water, and then air, and then earth. Why I'm doing this? Because this is the original order of the 5 elements, which I explained in another video about the symbols. And but you can do your own order, whatever you want. So what can you do with fire? You can just simply watch the fire, because the fire is connecting with the eyes, with the sense of seeing, because fire gives light, and light gives colors. So the energy of the fire enters in our body mostly through the eyes. So you can just watch the fire, or some people also like clean their aura with or in India they do like this. So they clean their aura with energy of the fire, right? Then there is water. You can simply drink the water, or you can put some water on altar or wherever you want. But this is important. The important is the taste. So you should drink it. If there is more people, then I use spoon, and then I put in the hand of people just few drops, so that they can taste the taste of the water. Some people put, like in church, priests, they put wine. They use wine. In India, they use also milk. I use just simple water, but you can use anything for the taste. Also, so for the air element, you smell some incense, and then you can, of course, do a little bit so that everything gets this, the whole altar, it's smelling nice, but also you or your aura, however you want to explain this. And of course, you connect with the air, with the smell, because the energy of the air element is enter in our body mostly through the nose. The energy of the water is entered in our body mostly through the mouth. And then the earth element, which I put some ash. Also, better, not any kind of ash, but this is the ash from some rituals that we did for the fire. So I use this ash because it has even more value to me. And what I do with ash, I simply just put some a dot on the forehead, or you can put a line. In India, they put usually 2 lines vertically or 3 lines horizontally. But those kind of things has a lot of other meanings. In rituals, every village has different meanings and different explanations why they're doing some things. But unfortunately, they lost the basic explanation about the elements. So the earth, it's about touch. And so you just put this earth on your face or wherever, and concentrate on the touch and connect with the spirit of the earth through the touch. So connect with those spirits through the 5 senses, and this is how actually you can perform a rituals. What I do usually, I do rituals before I do meditation, so it is some kind of preparation for the meditation. which also give a lot of benefit to the meditation, because then you give more value to the meditation itself and you prepare yourself for that activities. So this is how I perform the 5 elements rituals in my house when I go out in the nature or with friends, and especially for solstices and equinoxes, or some we do some bigger rituals, like more shamanic rituals, and but we always concentrate on the elements. So I hope you like these explanations, and I hope you will do your own altar and you will start to do rituals, because they are very beautiful and very logical and very powerful tools for your balance, for your element spirit. Om Namah Shivaya.